Hello there, it's James again from Design Spec, and in this video we're going to break down exactly how much your rear extension or loft conversion could really cost you. And for this YouTube video, we've also put together two PDF documents that you can download in the description below. One of those is going to break down everything we're going to cover, which is how much can your extension really cost you. And the other one is our extensive homeowner guide, which has helped hundreds of people already, and we're only a couple of months into this new year. Let's jump into it. Starting with the cost of the extension itself. We start with some very crude top-level metrics for this. If you're in the early stages of your home extension and just wanting to know roughly what that build cost could come to, we recommend using some very round, broad metrics, such as between £2,000 and £2,500 per square meter for a single-story rear extension, and £1,800 at this current moment in time for your loft conversion. As I say, these are very broad, top-level metrics, but they will give you a good steer as to what a basic box on the back of your home or a very basic loft conversion could cost. One thing to bear in mind with that loft conversion is whether or not you're going to go for a dormer. Again, one of the things we're going to deep dive in this video is some of the variables that can really push the envelope of that extension. Once upon a time, single story extensions, you could throw £30,000 at it and everyone knew there or thereabouts what they were going to get. First of all, the base point for an extension could be anywhere to £50,000 to £80,000 down in the southeast of England, and that can very quickly escalate to £120,000 plus, depending on your glazing specification, your lighting specification. There's a lot that you can choose. Hey, kitchens and bathrooms even. So you can really drive that cost up if you're not careful. But this video is all about some of the hidden elements that can really bump up that build cost. Let's dive into some of those points. Within the area that we call the hidden costs, there's four key topics that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover drainage at your address. We're going to cover trees, whether that's at your address or a neighbor's address. And then we're going to cover some of the steels that can be involved in your property, both in terms of general steel structures and in clear spans. And I'm going to give you some examples of where this really makes the difference. So have you got a large manhole or sewer run across the back or down the side even of your home that could impact not just the build, but also access to the site and sometimes additional permissions that you may need to build your extension? Anglian and Thames Water have bought all of the, what we call the public drain runs in this country that now can lead to additional permissions needing to be in place. So if you're building an extension within 3 meters of a shared drain run, and as simple as that sounds, if you share a drain run with a neighbor, you all collectively come to a single manhole, then you may need some of these permissions. If you do need these permissions, again, hidden costs as we're labeling them, you could need additional structural engineers' input, and you may, as I say, need some legal certification and legal permissions between you and the water company to make sure that you can continue with that build. Let's be honest, it should all be done before you start the build. Another thing to watch out for when planning a single story extension is trees, folks. These do not get spoken about anywhere near enough. If you are within 10 meters of a large tree, that will impact your foundations in some way, shape or form. Now, the thing to really watch out for, in the UK, we're only allowed to dig 2.5 meters in depth. If the tree is within, let's say, 5 meters, there is a very high chance that you will not be digging deep enough to get below the root density of that tree, leading to what we call either piled foundations or raft foundations. These are heavily engineered foundations and can increase your build cost by up to £10,000. What we would normally do over at Design Spec is do an initial appraisal, highlight any of these potentials before we start the drawing work, because it can only help you to be liaising with your neighbors if the tree's on their side, or if it's on your side, looking at potentially having some of these trees removed or looking at the planting schedule in general. No one wants to be losing large trees, me for one of those. If it's the difference between £10,000, it can be more beneficial to plant multiple, less intrusive trees towards the rear of your property. So heavy steel structures, what can that look like? Well, as with many of us, we would look at our home and look to maximize every square meter. It's only natural. But one thing to really think about is that when you're doing, say, 2-story extensions, very, very rarely does a 2-story extension match the ground floor footprint and the first floor footprint of that proposal. Normally at the first floor level, it will be stepped in or trimmed back a little bit due to either planning legislation, impact on neighbors, it could be build cost, it could be visual, it could be how the roof connects back into your main building, there's a number of reasons. 99% of the time, your first floor extension will not match the footprint of the ground floor extension. This can lead to extensive structural works to the ground floor, both to the existing home and the proposed footprint. This is massive. This is the difference between your single story footprint costing 80 to 100 and it jumping to 125,000 pounds, for example. It's the steels that are needed to obviously prop up that first floor level. That's one thing to consider. Those steels can then have another knock-on effect where the depth of those steels can impact your ceiling level below. Naturally, you will want to push all of this up so that we push the steels up to be in line with your first floor joists, which is your floor level. As soon as you start doing that, there's a lot more engineering involved. There's a lot more time on site for the contractors. It may not be an additional material cost, but it absolutely is an additional labor cost. That all needs to be considered. If you're looking at a two-story extension and you don't want to be seeing the steel beams, you must bear in mind the cost to push all of this up into the ceiling void. That leads us now nicely onto the fourth and final point, which is the clear spans in your property. Over at Design Spec, this is where we get most of our wins. These are the quick and easy solutions that can save you tens of thousands of pounds. In fact, we worked on one property fairly recently whereby the family gave us one remit: please no upright posts. You can probably already guess where I'm going with this. That upright post was absolutely necessary to save not 1,000, not 5,000, but 12,000 pounds. It was a part two-story extension, part single-story rear extension, and the clients wanted a nice open plan lounge kitchen diner towards the rear of their home. You can already tell where I'm going with this. We had no choice, in my opinion, but to present a couple of options to our clients. We showed one completely open, clear span, everything that the client asked for, and that was the one that they also chose to push forward to the structural engineers phase. So they wanted the engineer to specify and to design strictly in accordance with that original remit. Once that plan was produced, we pinged it out to the contractors. The build cost was coming in extortionately high for what we were looking to achieve. We decided to persuade our clients, in all honesty, we pushed them to pay the engineer to prepare a second set of calculations with one upright post. The homeowners of that particular property were over the moon with the finished product. So don't just rule out or in for posts, clear spans, or anything in between. Bounce off of your design team, ask the right questions, and that's what this video is here for. If this video is helping you, there is that other guide that's in our description as well. It'll go through everything from the very beginning to the very end. It's a complete homeowner guide that we put a lot of time and effort into, and there's also a mini video series as well that can guide you through that guide and give you some of our hints and tips as well in those videos. Be sure to check that one out too. Going back to what else can really increase your build cost, there's a couple of very straightforward ones that we always like to throw out to our clients just to make sure it's been covered. A really easy one for us to bounce off of you as a family living in that home: is there any chance you don't have to live in the home during the build? Believe it or not, if the contractor does not have to call out an electrician and a plumber every night to make sure your electric and water is back on, that can save you between £5,000 and £10,000 on your build. These are no sums of money that should be thrown away, especially when it all starts to add up. You can see quite easily how a rear extension can become £20,000, £30,000, £50,000 extra when all of these little bits and pieces have not been considered early doors. There's another little throwaway one for you just to consider, that if you can stay with family or you can be maybe on holiday for an extensive period of this build, bearing in mind it could be 6 to 8 weeks in total length, then you may well save yourself thousands of pounds there too. Feel free to follow through with the PDF download for how much will your extension cost, and that will cover a lot of what we've covered in this video. And you can also sit down even with your contractor, which I highly recommend. Cover some of those figures with them. It will also give you and your family a little bit of peace of mind that this has all been considered before you commit to a design company, to a structural engineer, to anyone else. Just to help you with some of the fees on the paperwork side, here's some crude guides that we recommend following for your paperwork to get you from point A to point Z, which is effectively handover of that building project. Starting at the top, the architecture fees. Generally speaking, you're looking at anywhere between 4 and 8% of total build cost for your planning, for your building control applications, and for them to also liaise and sit in between your structural engineers, any queries from a party wall surveyor, any queries from a neighbor, and also, of course, any questions that you have during that build phase. It's very important to have a budget set aside to to have someone, even if it's not an architect, maybe architectural designers, which is what we are over at Design Spec, to just help guide you through this from the very beginning to the very end. A good design company should not technically cost you a penny. We have an internal goal at Design Spec to save every penny you pay us on build cost savings. Bear that in mind. I always recommend really challenge your designer. How are they going to bring this in on time, on budget, and work with you to get that solution that you and your family really need? The next fee to bear in mind is the structural engineer's fee. This can be anything from £1,500 up to £3,000. It's very much dependent on scale. An engineer's role is to calculate each steel beam or each structural element of your home. So as you can imagine, if a property has 5 steel beams versus 1, you're going to pay more for the 5. It's very, very straightforward. The easiest way to get a structural engineer to price anything is to send them a set of drawings. They won't be there at phase 1, which is the concept for you to bounce the ideas with the design company, but the design company will be able to get you a quotation for that engineering work as soon as you and them have a concept plan that you're all happy to run with. Now let's talk about some of your permissions. You need planning permission, or at the very least, a certificate of lawfulness or a prior approval. There's many, many different types of planning applications, which we will break down in a future video, but just know that you will have to pay your local authority for some form of certificate. What tends to happen is your design company, or we, would normally survey, draw, have that design approved with yourself, and then we start to gather the local authority permissions. You've got your planning permission. Depending on which application type you do, there are always hundreds of pounds. There's nothing, touch wood, right now that is thousands of pounds. Each application is charged independently. So if you are refused planning permission first time around and we need to rejig that design to go back into planning, there are a second round of fees that the council will charge you. Some design companies as well, depending on the level of work, will also have to charge for their time to prepare another design that goes into that submission. Again, it should all be hundreds, not thousands of pounds, but it's a contingency worth bearing in mind. Once planning permission is approved and we've got now your full detailed pack of drawings, we've got your structural engineer's involvement and input, we now need to submit to the building control department, which basically is an authority who just make sure that our paperwork or the design company's paperwork is correct, and they'll also make sure that the builder sticks to his end of the deal and follows that drawing for you. It's all safe, it's not going to collapse. That's what the building control's job is, or the building control inspector, sorry, is going to be there to do. The fee for that is generally somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500 for all of it. So that's for them to visit the address on a regular occasion, that's for them to issue the final certificate, and it's for them to make sure that our paperwork and that builder's work all ties together for you as family and the homeowner. That's the building control element covered. Now there is one other one that is becoming increasingly common, and we're seeing a lot more now than ever before, and that is you may need a party wall surveyor. Party wall surveyor's role is to effectively liaise between you and your neighbor and just make sure that that design is not going to negatively impact on the neighbor's living quality or structurally to their home. The party wall surveyor effectively is appointed to be independent to you both and just make sure that you're both covered. There are cases where we have families who will proceed with their paperwork and start with the building phase. Then their neighbor will look to contest an element of that build. It could be anything from an additional outbuilding. It could be boundary treatments. It could be that you're looking to have a pergola put into the back garden. We see all kinds over at Design Spec. Generally speaking, the most common for us is where we've worked with our clients on an extension of some kind. The builder has then shown up to start that building work and the neighbor would like to have some input. So our recommendation to all of our clients, just make sure that a party wall surveyor is consulted early doors, i.e. when you've got a drawing, and you and your neighbor and this party wall surveyor can all be on the same page from a very early stage. I do understand where some clients don't wish to pay for this service. Party wall surveyor can be on average around £1,200, which again, it all adds up and we completely understand. Worst case scenario, please just go sit down with your neighbor, have a really good chin wag over everything they could be concerned about, that you could be concerned about, and just iron everything out before you go too far down the road. That's going to be vital for a smooth project for you both. And that pretty much wraps it up. Everything we've said in this video and a lot more in those guides below. So be sure to go to the description, click the link, and that will take you through to a very handy PDF download with a far more visual take on what we've just presented here today. For everyone else, we look forward to seeing you in the next video.